Hey man, it is DJ Strick, and it is that time. It is time for the stream show. So if you haven't already, you gotta let everybody know we are live. And please let me know that you're watching, whether that's in the replay or you're here with us right now. So come on in, tell me that you're with me. I am putting, let me be sure I can pull this up. I am actually right now putting our Zoom call in the chat. All right, so we're here. Even Monte knows that we're here. Monte Weaver is here with me. Of course, he's here with me. He's my guest today, but that is the way to get into the call tonight to be a part of the Zoom. So as Monte is explaining all the stuff that he's going to be talking about tonight, you have an opportunity to learn something by asking your question personally. What does that mean? Like, you can call us up, be a part of the show, and when you have a question about what we're doing with the PTZ cameras, guess what? We'll answer your question. We'll actually bring you on. You don't just have to do, what Jeremy is doing right now in the comments. You can actually come into the Zoom call and be in the conversation. It will be a great conversation. So big ups to you, Jeremy. Jaden, I see you there. Thank you for coming through today. And I made a message inside of the community today. Said I wanted you to think outside of the box. Just a little bit outside of the box about how we create content and what you're using to create it. Could things change? Things could always change. Could there be more technology? There could always be more technology. You may have a use case inside of your studio that a PTZ camera would fit the best for. But if you never look into the technology, if you never look into what PTZs are and how you can use them, or other facets of using them, like I'm at a church. Our church uses PTZ cameras, so I'm fully aware of how to use them, how to control them, and all that other kind of stuff. But there could be a use case even in my studio. That being said, without any further ado, I am so happy that he is willing to take the time out. We've hung out years ago at a conference in Orlando. Cool guy, great family, and has a wealth of information about live streaming. So my introduction to Monte Weaver was actually watching his a live video. First, about going live for churches, and also how to do pre-recorded videos as live. I got all of his stuff, went through all of his videos, and was hooked on him as a content creator. And I have him here with me live. Monte Weaver, how are you doing, sir?
I'm good, man. Thank you for inviting me. I'm excited. It's been a while. This is our time to catch up and teach and share and demo. So I'm looking forward to this live stream tonight.
Man, it was really cool. I think the last time we actually were in person together was down in Orlando. We had a chance to kind of hang out and connect and even go to Chick-fil-A together.
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun times. And yeah, that was the first time you told me like you had, hearing you say I watched your videos in person and like meeting you, that was like so cool. So knowing that, as content creators, when you're able to create content and you're able to meet the person that is consuming your content, that was pretty cool. So yeah.
Hey, you were doing the work, man. All I did was consume it. I was just there watching, and it was basically, I'll tell you how far back it was. November 2019. So right before the pandemic, I started going down the road of making content online. I kind of got the bug of being on a microphone again. I'm a former DJ. I'm like, I gotta do something. And somebody said, well, why don't you just do some YouTube stuff? There it is. So I started looking into YouTube, how to do live streams and all that other kind of stuff. I was gonna do a Monte band. I didn't know what I was doing. My mind said do a morning show, just like radio, every day live stream for 2 hours.
Yeah, that's work.
I'm glad I learned better from that idea. You see people on television every day, but they're not a one-man band.
Right.
You know, they may be in front of the camera, but they got producers and all other kind of stuff around them to allow them to be, and it's a job for them. I was trying to make a
Yeah.
job for myself that I had no money for. You know what I'm saying? But thank God I figured it out, and I learned a lot about creating content, not just for myself, but from a church perspective, from watching your videos as well. So by the time the pandemic happened, like most churches, your videos were published at a time where people were actually searching for that information. It kind of hit the
Yeah.
wave, and every church is trying to figure out how to go live. And that's why I was consuming more of it and actually trying to put it into practice. So,
What's funny about that is when I put up those videos, I had already been talking about PTZs on Facebook and other platforms and churches individually. And it was out of really frustration that churches weren't utilizing live streaming. I'm just
right.
like, yo, we have video, like we can make it easier because some of the hurdles that churches have is the lack of volunteers. So I'm like, this camera can help with, a minimal staff. And so when I put up the video, the very next week is when the world said, all right, lockdown. And so everybody was now forced to do it. So the video that I had made out of frustration, I'm like, okay, somebody's going to see this eventually and see that they can live stream their services. Turned into that video, I think has probably close to 400,000 views at this point.
Wow.
People still watch that video.
Wow. And you know, during that time, cameras, PTZ cameras, you couldn't find anything on the shelves anymore. Like people had
Yeah,
sold out of everything
yeah, yeah,
because
yeah,
of the
yeah.
pandemic. Everybody at one time is now trying to buy equipment to do PTZ, whatever camera they could find. They was trying to find anything to
Anything.
put their church online. So it was a wild time. And just like you said, people are still watching it to today because it's still relevant. It's still
Yeah.
relevant to what people are trying to do. Today, of course, we're talking to the Ecamm fam and the Ecamm community about something that normally we wouldn't talk about. Okay, normally we wouldn't talk about PTZ cameras for a live studio. You got a webcam, you have your
Hmm.
phone, you have your DSLR mirrorless camera. I think people are familiar with the Ozbot, you know, but they don't think about some of the things you're going to talk about today. So I want to jump into it. But before I do, I have to say this. DJ, so you got the man today. Yes, I do. This will be a great educational session. Yes, and Kirk may be coming in to join us today. I know he has some things coming on, but he knew that Monty was going to be on, and I know Kirk wants to be here. So we're going to see. And Jeremy, I see you in Zoom as well, so I'm going to bring you in a little while we talk about this because I'm sure you have something to add to the conversation. That being said, Monty, let's just start. Let's just start with why go down this road with PTZ cameras of educating people of how to use them in your home studio.
Yeah, let me first start off by defining a question that I thought people knew the answer to was what is a PTZ camera?
There you go.
PTZ, pan, tilt, and zoom. So a camera that has those functionalities. It can pan, it can go left to right, it can tilt and go up and down, and it can zoom. It can go close, it can go far. And when I had an actual office space before 2020. One of the cameras that I had drawn interest in was a PTZ camera, a full-on PTZ camera, because of those capabilities. And when you're producing video, either for someone or for yourself, a still camera, a camera that doesn't move, kind of limits you where you can only go but so far.
Right.
Otherwise, you need someone to actually begin to control it. So I started just gaining interest in PTZ cameras and then working with ministries. I was like, yeah, this is really beneficial if you have, a small team or just myself. So I bought my first PTZ camera. I put it in the office space. I had my joystick and I could move my camera left, right, up, and down. because also at the same time I was doing more walking myself with the Amazon platform. Amazon Live was a brand new platform that was out, and if I needed to go to the other side of the room to grab something or demonstrate something, I would just go off frame, and then
Right.
you'd kind of have to wait for me to come back.
Come
But
back,
with the
right?
PTZ camera, I could use my joystick and zoom out, or I could set up presets so when I walk to the other side of the room, you could still see me. And I just thought that more people should just take advantage of this capability so that they didn't necessarily have to be sitting all the time for their live stream. Maybe they wanted to walk around a little bit. We'll talk about AI here in a second or a little bit later. But that was kind of my introduction as the PTZ cameras. It was like, okay, there's got to be a way for me to not be here all the time.
All
I
the
want to move
time.
around a little bit, and then this type of camera in particular, a PTZ camera, gives me that functionality.
That makes a whole lot of sense. It makes a whole lot of sense. I mean, I guess sometimes, Monday, we get so into seeing one thing. Okay, I got the
Hmm.
talking head video, but for people that have other functionalities or would like to have other functionalities inside of their studio, when my mirrorless camera without multiple cameras, I'm limited in what I can do. Like I have this shot.
Yeah,
But with
yeah,
like you're saying with a PTZ, you can, preset different shots. Of course, with Ecamm, even with one shot, you have multiple shots. So
right,
don't,
right.
with Ecamm,
Because
you can do a lot of things with the scenes and all other kind of stuff. But if I'm moving, unless I have a very, very wide shot, I'm limited in where I could go inside with one camera that can't move.
yeah, yeah, and that's one of the cool things about Ecamm is they have that functionality because before Ecamm I didn't have that functionality. I
Right.
couldn't I could crop in, but then I was losing resolution because it was
That's
too
right.
far away, and you're dealing with all these things, and you could make it work if you wanted to, but having a camera that can do it for me, and I keep the resolution, I keep the clarity of it. It's one of those things where if we're thinking about the end viewer, how do we keep retention is by making sure that we have the quality all the way through. And if you're solo and you're trying to hit buttons over here, and I can call a preset with a button, it's a lot different for a workflow. And a lot of people that have the studios aren't just us that do podcasts or talking head. I'm thinking about the gym person that's doing exercise routine and yogas, and the person that's in the
Right.
kitchen, their home studio, they're going from the refrigerator over to the oven.
Right.
Those capabilities now make it easier for them to do the thing that they do and live stream at the same time.
And have one camera to do it all. Let me see. Gretchen here chimes in. Says, "In my world, we call PTZ cameras trail cams."
Yeah,
Okay, I get
yeah.
it. I get it. I get it. So, G. Albert is asking a question as well. He's saying, I put it up twice. Monty, explain the PTZ. Is it with the Ansbot and iPad AI functionality? So, we're going to get into some of that. And he kind of gets us started with a question. But, Monty, as you have gone down the road of PTZ cameras, I know you've worked with multiple cameras and multiple companies. Can you talk about the differences that's out there and what you found that may have worked best for people or worked best for you?
Yeah, it's one of the things I ask back to a person is what are they looking for in a camera? And oftentimes what I find is they're new to PTZs in general. So I have to go through some of the feature sets. So I brought out some specifically to talk about different features and capabilities. And something like this is a very popular camera, the DJI Osmo Pocket 3. This is a PTZ camera, but it's more travel based, something small you can put in your pocket. You can actually connect it to your computer and make it a full on camera if you wanted to. But the intention for this type of PTZ is small and I can travel with it. And
Right.
it's a really good camera, high quality, right? So the functionality of something like that, I wouldn't necessarily put here in my studio because it's built for that mobile person that wants to be out and about. So maybe you're at a park and you want to walk your dog, and now you have that camera that can follow you. This is a better option than a camera that is more built for the studio, like I'm using right now on the other end of this. Great camera, like this one's particular USB connection. How many
Gotcha.
times have we talked about capture cards, and I need which capture card works the best. Well, you can just plug it in USB, or you can
Gotcha.
plug it in HDMI, or you can bring it in over your network. So if you have those networking skills, you can actually control this over your network, which is pretty cool. And you can even send the feed out 3 different ways simultaneously. It's built heavier, it's more sturdy, it gives you longer reach in your zoom capacity. But something like this, you're not traveling with because it doesn't have an internal battery. So when
Right.
you're looking at these different options, you're like, okay, what is inside it? But something like this does have an internal battery, but the battery
Hmm.
only lasts about 2 hours. So if you're going to be doing these long podcasts, you don't necessarily want to be talking to that dream person, and then 2 hours in, your camera just dies. Like that. That's not what you want. But if you do want something that you could set up real quick and live stream, like a wedding or any type of service that's going to be really quick, really fast, but you need a higher quality, then something like this works. So and then obviously AI functionality now, these cameras, and we'll demo that a little bit later towards the end, because if technology wants to work against me, at least we'll be toward the end of the live stream.
I
But
got you.
AI is allows these cameras to follow me, and that's what I really love about the 2 cameras that I'm having in front of me for tonight's show, is that these cameras can follow me left, right, up, and down. Hand gesture controls. Again, I'm thinking about that solo operator or that one person that might be operating. When you can use hand gestures to stop, start
Right.
a recording, or have it follow you, start and stop with hand gestures, now we're really able to do a little bit more than we used to just a couple years ago. So, which cameras do I look at is functionality. What type of functionality does that person need? And then also, obviously, you're looking at cost, because all of these cameras have different costs associated with it, from a couple $100s up to a few $1,000s to do the same thing. It just really depends on, at the end of the day, those spec sheets a little bit finer tuning. But um, each of these PTZ cameras serves a separate function based on, what you're trying to accomplish.
Got you. Someone is you used the example earlier, and I would say someone's out there listening to us, and they are thinking about a couple of things. The Amazon idea that you have. If I'm in my studio and I need to go from one side of my studio to the next, I can get that camera to go with me. They are exercise instructors, all right, trainers. They're dancing around the room. It could follow them. You mentioned cooks that are doing cooking classes. I mean, we've seen people use multiple cameras, but with a good PTZ that's trained right, presets or tracking controls, you can actually do all that you want to do inside of that. Let me think of anything else. People, I'm thinking about even like the meteorologist. We have, I think, Jim in our community does the green screen stuff. Like you can actually step up or step. I could stand. You could have a green screen and be walking, and that camera is now tracking you with a green screen. You can have whatever background you actually want to have. These are the options that you get out of a PTZ that could enhance what you're doing with audience engagement. Is that something that you're teaching as well? Like being sure that people are thinking about, like you said, your audience at the end, how they're consuming this, and is this keeping their attention?
Yeah. When I started live streaming, I didn't want to live stream and be the face of it. Like
Gotcha.
I've always been behind the camera. So I've always shared with people different techniques, right? And so in order for me to start live streaming myself and get on video, I tried to find something that was more unique. So I would put things in the background that would draw people's attention. And so it's the same concept with video is you try to find a way to keep a viewer engaged longer. So with a PTZ camera, if we watch TV, right? We watch TV, we watch movies, the scene is cutting every second. Like there's
Right.
something new every second. Like go back and like I'm a sports guy, right? So football season is on right now. They're going from one angle to another angle to another angle. If they just left it on the wide shot the whole game, you'd
Right.
probably get bored, or you'd find something else. Even if it's your team, you'd probably
Right.
get bored and just go watch something. So we're used to this dynamic video change. And so these PTZ cameras allow for that. So it's this way of being a little bit different, but also, okay, visually it helps the audience person not get so locked into this one image the whole entire time. They can see, even if all right, Strick, we got to go wide. I think we got to turn it on
Okay.
now
Yes, sir.
so we can
Let's
demo.
see what we got.
So I have one of my cameras here. I'll turn it over here and I'll make sure tracking, make sure we turned it on. So you probably saw AI tracking turned
I see
on
it.
my screen there. Yep. So as I begin to move, and it's not calibrated for here because usually I have my other set over here is where I do my PTZs. But if we started to do a teaching or a lecture or something now, having a little bit more of a visual as I'm talking is going to probably be a little bit more entertaining. You know, if I had a whiteboard and I start to talk about some things over here, or even if I just want to demonstrate, the big oversized monitor, I'm able to do a lot more. And for me, I'd like to stand when I demonstrate or when I teach. I like to move around. Like I just feel better. And I don't have to worry about someone keeping up with me, someone following me. It's just literally I turned on the button because this camera has auto tracking capabilities, and I'm able to be a little bit more free. And I think even the visuals allow people to be more inclined to even communicate more in the chat. People are more inclined to pay attention to see, okay, what's going on, what am I going to see. It just gives it something different that, quite frankly, most solo creators aren't doing. So you're
Right.
more easily able to stand out because how many other people do you see with a quote unquote robotic camera moving in their studio? Or even our friend Janae uses the slider, and it's constantly going back and forth, back and
Right.
forth. And so you can put a mirrorless camera on there and at least have the panning function. If you don't have the
Going.
tilt or the zoom, use the panning function. And if you have Ecamm, you can definitely use the zoom capability part of that and crop it for these different shots. So there's other ways to do the same thing. But if you want an all-in-one that's already ready to go, you look into a PTZ camera
PTZ.
because it has all the functionality built into it.
I love it. I love the demonstration you just gave us because it just had me thinking, Monty, of so much that could happen with that. Could you do me a favor with the demonstration again? That was a nice wide shot of you in it. Is there a way for you to tighten that shot up again and then move with a closer look? And shouts
Yes.
out to you, Mr. Camera Junkie. Thank you for coming through. Jeremy, I'm coming to you in just a little bit. I know you want to get into this conversation.
Yeah, so let me see, because it's been a little while since I did my pan far and close. But what I will do, I'll do it on another camera here. So let me
Gotcha.
grab, because another camera I didn't mention is a webcam. So a lot of us have cams to some capacity. Let's switch over to our Tiny 2. All right, so this is my Tiny 2 webcam, and the Tiny 2 webcam, this is a robotic camera as well, PTZ camera. So I have different ways of controlling it too, which is one thing I wanted to talk about. You can control these with software. So I'm going to look over here to make sure I'm in frame. You can control it with software, which I'm doing right now. You can control these cameras with the remote control. I have a dedicated PTZ controller on my desk as well. But what you wanted to see was me walking around. So let's see if I remember how to do it on here. Let's see. If I don't remember, you guys can get the gist. Okay, so zone tracking here, standard, normal tracking. So let me see if I got it locked on. All right. So I've got zone tracking here, and I have a medium shot that I can do or a narrow shot. So these are presets. And again, I like looking at the software of what these cameras can offer. So this one in particular, I have three presets: a normal, a medium, and a wide. And then I just use the scroll to tighten it in as close or far as I want. Now this is just sitting right on my camera monitor. So if you wanted to, obviously not point at the ceiling, you would set it on a tripod, and you'd have that same functionality. So, all of these cameras have a little bit of a different way that you can control it, but all of them you can definitely use an included remote control. That way you're not physically, touching it, because you don't want to be touching the PTZ and messing up the motors inside of it. But yeah, so
I
hopefully
like
that would
that.
beneficial there, Strick.
It
Yeah,
was.
well,
It was. So I have a client just started working with, and they're doing tutorials, and they just want to be able to go from a writing on a board and then coming back to the main shot where the board is not in the shot, those kind of things. So be able to walk over, 2 feet out of the frame and then walk back into the frame, which is the main frame. This is just an idea that I have, and a PTZ could definitely do it. Wide shots with Ecamm could do it as well. But, how can I do that, get a great picture, and be able to have multiple things for my people to be able to walk around in? That being said,
mhm.
I have Jeremy here with us on Zoom. So we started this when Ecamm actually upgraded to integrate Zoom into the calls. Monty, I absolutely love this, right? So we can have people watching in Zoom. So if people that are doing webinars and all this other kind of stuff, they can have their Zoom call going. They're seeing our broadcast, and then at any point we want to bring them into the broadcast, all we have to do is add it in as a camera. I absolutely love it. So that being said, let me add Jeremy in to the call here, and we will get to it. I hadn't set this up yet, Jeremy, so give me a second to add
Take
you
your
in.
time, man.
Where did the camera go? Oh, you're down here. There you are. There you go.
There I am.
He's here.
Jeremy, so I know that when we start talking about PTZs, you were interested and you came onto the Zoom. You have some experience with this as well. You want to explain some of the things that you are doing with PTZs?
Yeah, actually, I was thinking about this. I was using old Panasonic PTZs that were network cameras back in early 2000s.
Is there a way you can turn
And
your audio up just a little bit for me?
I'm a little here. I tell you what. Let me crank the gain a little bit. Is that better?
A little more.
If I talk, no, wait, a little more. Is that good? Maybe that's Ecamm that's messing with me here. Hang on a second. I'll boost it in Ecamm. See if that helps. Is that any better?
Yes, a little better. Thank you.
Okay. So, yeah. So anyway, I've worked with some network cameras from Panasonic a long time ago, PTZ. And then I just kind of got back into them doing helping a church do their live stream.
Mm-hmm.
And, their cameras are all they're 1080p PTZ cameras. And, they work great. They have NDI capability, and then they also have I think it is network capability as well. So it's IP,
Right.
and actually so the church is 60 miles away, and even on a good day, that's in Seattle, that's an hour drive on a Sunday morning, and so I started looking at ways to be able to control these PTZs. And I know we haven't gotten into this yet, but one of the coolest things about PTZs for like a solo operation is that you can completely control these things and be like you can be a one-man show and just have your cameras queued up and you have your live shot, and then you've got all your standby shots, kind of like in a control room, like what you were saying about watching football. You got your standbys, and then you just switch over to those, and once you have them framed up correctly. And so I figured out there's an app called Companion that I know a lot of churches are using as well, and I got the remote capability to work with that. So now, let me switch over to the scene real quick. I'll show you what I am doing. You can see, so this is the church. This is I'm using Splashtop desktop to go into the church's Mac Studio, and down below is my iPad, which is actually right in front of me. And what's really cool about this is that I've got all my presets set up, right? So if I want to go, to the lower, on the center camera go to lower altar, I just tap that, and it sends the signal from my office here in Bellevue up to Mount Vernon, where the church is, and I can, as long as I know where people are, I always have a wide shot going at all times, so I know where I have to go because I'm not there, right?
Right.
But it does, having these PTZs, and I can step through, I can go left and right, I can zoom out, I can do the manual control, but having the presets to kind of take you to a spot real quick is like having a camera operator and just telling them, okay, go to train in on the pulpit, train in on the the lectern or whatever, and it just makes things so much easier this way, and it allows me to fully remote control the show. And so
Was that
I
a
won't
live
say that I
shot?
might.
Was that a
That is a
live
live
shot?
shot. It
That's
is.
cool. So
That's
you're 60 miles away using
I'm 60. So this is my iPad screen, right? So this is
okay.
actually running um, Stream Deck. This is
Okay.
This is the Stream Deck on the iPad, right?
Uh-huh.
And so I've got my touch screen here, and then I just kind of put it in the lower center here. But so I've got two cameras, and usually what I'll be is in I'll be in preview mode, right? And so I'll have my my left camera on standby, and I've got my live shot over to the right, the program window, and I set up where I need my left camera to be. I'll just tap it on my iPad. It takes me right there, and when I'm ready to transition over, I hit the return button on Ecamm. Boom, it switches over. So
Ecamm
I
for the
can,
win. I love it.
yeah, totally, man, totally. It's great. It's great for that. So yeah, these are live shots. I mean, it's obviously they're done for the day, but I can set up both of these exactly like I want them, and I get everything programmed in, and I use a little teleprompter app. So if I want to overlay if I want to do something like this, I can overlay the hymns that they're singing, and then it's like it's a teleprompter app. That's all
Right.
it is, and I can have that go too. So it's actually, I thought when they hired me for this gig, I thought to myself, I said, oh, this is going to be easy, and it is a bit nerve wracking because you know people move microphones, and and like today they said they were going to sing certain verses, which was different from the program that I was handed 24 hours earlier. So I had to go in real quick and copy and paste and everything before I made that shot live. But with the PTZs, it makes it so much easier. It's like having two camera operators there, and you're just in control of everything. It's really, really nice.
Monte, I'm blown away with the idea that he can control these things remotely and he could do all of that with just two PTZs. That's really cool, huh? Okay, I think you may have muted yourself there. Make sure I didn't do it on my end. There you go. Have to unmute here. Guests have muted themselves. Let me go back to this shot just to be sure. There you're on here.
I didn't touch anything on my side.
No, you're good. I'm gonna go back to this shot. Okay, I don't know what that was, but we got it now. Brandy is saying, hey, she's impressed. Remote, I'm impressed with bringing you in from Zoom. Yes, so that's Brandy. We got a lot to talk about with Ecamm. And Miss Kay Walker, how are you doing? I do have a tech troublemaker here. I did not know that he also has experience working with PTZs as well with churches, and a similar kind of setup thing that he's saying that he's doing there. That's really cool. That's really cool. And I said it earlier myself. I use PTZs at my church, Monty. So I love the technology. It's hard picking the right one. He has Sony's, and trying to figure out the best PTZ for your size, space, the zoom, and all that other kind of stuff. That's the hard thing. That's the hard thing.
Yeah, budget. That's the word, or
It's always budget.
the limiting factor I'm always working with is what's the budget. And then, a lot of the ministries that that I've supported, they're smaller. They're 20, maybe 50 people. So, finding these cameras, because a lot of them come from zero camera, zero
Right.
experience with video, like just zero. Maybe a camcorder they've had, and they had someone hit record and then walk away, and then they're also, serving at the door at the same time. So,
That's
finding
me.
finding sub 500 PTZ cameras can work. Obviously, some of the bigger brands with 4K and some of the additional capabilities, look better. But, I'm just a huge proponent of, especially for the ministries, like, starting somewhere. And then even as we were talking, as we were getting set up, lighting is a big deal with PTZ cameras, because our sensors aren't as big as the mirrorless cameras. So having good lighting, proper lighting, definitely helps with the image, because you try to throw a PTZ camera in a badly lit area, you might have the functionality, but you're not going to see much of anything. So that is something to definitely consider when looking at these types of cameras as well.
That is so
Yeah,
true.
the dynamic range on these cameras is really narrow. So if you look back at that shot here, you can see off on this right side camera here. If I train the camera in on those windows on the side, they'll get blown out.
Right.
The light coming in will get blown out, and the only way around that is a better, larger sensor and more money. I mean, Sony makes one that I saw that is a really cool looking PTZ. That's I think it's a full frame PTZ, but it's
Yep.
$6,500 without the lens.
Yep.
And I guess that is
So-
some of the drawbacks of PTZ cameras. Like Monty started just earlier saying, what's your functionality? What's the function of this? And we're talking about
Right.
churches that may be able to afford a little bit more of an expense for a camera, but think about what our budgets may be for a decent camera in our home studios. Let's just go there. Of course, I
Right.
need to get a camera body. And this is just a normal camera. I need to have a camera body, and I need to have a lens. There are ways to get around it. Monty has, of course, the webcam that's there. That's just the webcam. Depending on what your budget is, there's several ways that you could go. But that PTZ camera is limited in the glass, and it's limited with the sensor size. So if you want a particular look, compared to, some of these Sonys we got out. I have people in the community, Monty, that are trying to figure out if they're going to get a Sony FX3 or FX30. And these are much larger, much expensive cameras. But again, it is just a camera that's going to be on a tripod. And then you also have to buy the lens for it, which is even more expensive.
Yeah.
And if they contrast like maybe a PTZ with all of that amount, I mean, a PTZ camera at that same cost could be really cool as well. May not give you all the dynamic range, but could give you a good look and some functionality as well.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I love my tail airs right here. I take these to gigs. Again, time limitations on it, but this has it's 4K in here. Depending on the distance is something I'm also looking at to zoom in, because once this one has digital zoom. So digital zoom, essentially, if you're cropping, as you're zooming in, you're losing resolution the further and further you crop in. But these other cameras have optical zoom. These bigger cameras have optical zoom, so they're not losing that resolution. So as we saw the image inside the church in real time, that image quality from far out, zoomed all the way out to zoomed all the way in, you're not going to lose that resolution. Some of them have both. Some have optical and digital zoom. So paying attention to the distance that you want to be away from your camera is something to also pay attention to. But for home studios, I like my Osbot tail airs. I have two over here and another set area that's like the gaming area. Got another computer from Amazon. I didn't pay for it, but another story for another day. But I have two that sit over there, and they look really good on camera over there. Nice lighting over there, and even like I said, like the Osbot or the DJI Osmo Pocket 3, you can definitely plug it up and have it as your in studio. But if you know that you are going to also go out and you don't want just a permanent fix in studio camera, then you could look at, some of these other options. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of both, but you know, there's not a lot of us that talk about PTZ. So when I find other people that do love them the way that I do, it's always pretty cool.
So, a couple of questions here, Monty, I want to kind of ask. So, Business Growth Ready is asking any views on the Logitech PTZ Pro 2. Have you seen that camera at all?
I have not seen that one. The Logitech, I didn't realize Logitech had one. I get a lot of inbound requests from all kinds of manufacturers that I didn't even never even heard of. So trying to keep up with everybody that's coming out with them is a little challenging, but I didn't know Logitech had their own PTZs.
Okay, well, how about this one? This is from Brandy Joe. Would you put any of these cameras behind an Elgato teleprompter at all, or is this a no-go? Good question, Brandy.
I wouldn't, because the teleprompter functionality in itself is stationary. So once you move the lens left or right, you're going to see the back of the teleprompter. And so I wouldn't use a PTZ camera for a teleprompter. I would use just a stationary camera for that, because I don't want to use it in a teleprompter setting. I definitely the purpose of using that PTZ camera is to be able to pan left and right. If you're just looking at camera for behind the teleprompter, I wouldn't go the PTZ route.
Right, you will probably want to motorize the teleprompter. The whole
Yeah, the whole
camera
thing is have to
teleprompter
move. Yeah,
needs to be able to move. And what he's saying
yeah,
is, if you have a camera in the teleprompter and you move the camera on the inside, you're gonna see the walls of the teleprompter. So it wouldn't be able to help unless
yeah.
you're
The
not
whole
going
the
but so
whole base
far.
would have to move.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the whole
so
base would
I
have
don't,
to
I
move.
don't know if there's anything out there for
And there's some
something like that.
technology out there for that. There's some technology out there
Because
that
even if
will
that's the case, you still wouldn't even need a PTZ camera, because the whole base is moving with the camera. So yeah,
exactly, exactly. Just use your regular camera.
yep.
But good question, Brandy Joe. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Monty, this has been really cool. And I know that there was a few more things that we want to talk about. Can we go into the AI portion of it?
Yeah. Sure, sure. So I demoed a little bit of the
Tracking.
the auto tracking, yeah, and I guess kind of to reiterate and kind of hit on that point again is when I get up and stand, or I think about speakers, and I used to do these teaching presentations at the local real estate company about video and social media, and I would come to the realization that I maybe should start recording myself and having this so people can actually see that I do this outside of just sitting behind a desk, right? So
Right.
I had a camera and I set it up, and it would go into that same thing. I'd walk out the frame. You could hear me, but I'd walk out the frame. So, having a PTZ camera in the back of the room, more specifically when I go out something like this, I can also put in an SD card and I can record internally into the card. So now when I put something like this, I can put my backpack on a tripod, and then using hand gestures, which I talked about a little bit earlier, literally using the hand gestures to stop, to zoom in, to zoom out, and I forgot what this one was, but each camera is a little bit different. But the hand gestures themselves allow me to not have to physically go up to the camera and have to touch it, and uh, the things that we would log into our laptop. If you don't necessarily need to bring something into Ecamm, you just want to record it, you're not even live streaming, you can do that. And even if you did want to record and go live from these devices, you can as well, because a lot of these have their own apps. So you log into the app, and then you just connect your social platforms that you want to go to, and you live stream directly from the device itself. So the AI is getting better, or the tracking capabilities, whichever words phrase you want to use, it's getting better with being able to keep up with faster speeds. I've tested these out. I got two nephews that play sports, so I've taken these out to the field, turned on tracking. Now there's cameras that are out there that they're better with actually tracking individual players. So
Okay.
the technology is steadily advancing and advancing and advancing. So, don't be surprised if you go to the local sports field and you see some of these that are, mounted up, and you're trying to see, okay, who's operating it. There may be someone just literally on their iPad in the stands operating a camera. They brought a tall tripod, threw it up there, and they're able to record and zoom in and zoom out. So I'm that guy, because I'm always testing something out, right? I need use cases for some of this stuff. But
I see that as the
yeah,
future. I really do. For
yeah.
sporting events is good. I just think, you can put, if it's the right PTZ, it's the issue for me. Like making sure you have the right one. And to be honest with you, ones that is going to give you more of a range, they're going to be quite expensive.
Well, I have a 30X. If you want to switch over widescreen, let me see if I have pulled up here. I have a 30X that's sitting in the back of the room here, and it's tight shot on the back of my second angle PTZ. So I'm gonna go out wide. Hopefully, if it's working, or if it wanted to lock up on me. Probably locked up on me, so I'll come back. So I don't know why it was doing that. Stick. I moved some stuff around. I'll come back to my other shot. But what I was gonna, just the distance that some of these can go. So having a 30X optical zoom, you could definitely set this up in the back of an auditorium and zoom all the way in on your kid that's in the dance recital and have a close-up headshot, because of the distance that they could travel. And that particular camera is less than $1,000, I know for sure. I want to say probably even under the $800 mark, and it's a 30X zoom on it. So it's a 1080p camera, does really well. Again, if the auditorium has bad lighting, it's not going to be that crisp image that we would see from a mirrorless camera like the FX3 or FX30, but it still gives you a really, really good picture, and you're able to be way in the back. You're not intrusive upon anybody with the equipment. So even the camera I'm on right now is a 25 optical zoom, and I'm not going to zoom all the way in on me. Maybe you can see the lint, or like it's still
That's pretty
zooming.
tight.
So
That's pretty tight.
yeah. So you can definitely put these all the way in the back of a space, and still have, a really good image from a far distance. And I want to say the price tag on the one I'm on now, it's about $2,000, but it's also a 4K camera. It's also
Okay.
NDI capability. It also has tally lights on it. So anybody that's done TV, it has the red and the
Right.
green on it. So I know when it's live or when it's not live. So different features, again, for different cameras.
So are you also, so let's talk about this, because you mentioned it really quick. There are some trade-offs going to a PTZ versus some of the mirrorless cameras that we may have in our studios. Let's go back to the studio. It's the functionality that's different that you want to be thinking of. You started with this earlier. It's not, hey, what PTZ do I want to get or should I get? It is, how are you going to use this PTZ, correct?
Yeah. I'm always thinking about use case. That's why I like hanging out with you and Kirk. We're always, we always get that question, what's the best? And it's one of those questions I understand, but the word "the best" throws me off, because it's not about the best. It's what do you need? Because your
Right.
functionality, your best is different from my best. Like we can't compare the two. So when I think PTZ cameras, I'm thinking studio, I'm thinking stationary, I'm thinking the ability to pan, tilt, and move. The minute I need to take my camera and go take some photos because it's a nice sunset, I can't take this off a tripod and go take a picture with it. So
Right.
if you need photography in your camera, this is not going to be the camera that you're going to look at. If you need an external battery, like this is probably not like dummy batteries are in our world of mirrorless and DSLR cameras. Like we don't have dummy batteries. Like what's that for a
Right.
PTZ camera? Like dummy
Right. You
batteries?
got to
No.
power it.
Yeah, we got to power this thing on. We have controllers. I might need a controller to be able to control the camera. We talked about AI, but if your camera doesn't have AI, you need a dedicated controller to make this thing go left, right, up, and down, or you use a remote control, which I'm not really a fan of, because if I'm looking this way and my PTZ camera's behind me, like I'm over here, like this is not going to work,
You're
so
pointing the remote backwards.
yeah, pointing it backwards. Like at my church, where our media booth is, we're on the back wall against our main back camera. So if I wanted to use this, I'd literally have to kind of lean and try to get it to, and that's just not going to work for something like that.
Right.
But then the trade-offs are what we've talked about before. If I don't have a person to operate my camera, but I still need to move, okay, now this makes more sense. So yeah, it's those pros and con lists is on one side. You
Right.
write down all the pros of what you need, and then on the opposite side, what things that you don't necessarily need. And then you can make a decision based off of that, and asking people, right? Like there's so many times I've asked other creators, hey, what are you using to do what
Right.
you do?
Right.
Or I'll look at a video, and being a techie, you can kind of tell certain way things are done. I'm always looking at ministries not for the words that they're preaching across the pulpit, but I'm like, man, how did they make that camera shot go from there to there? And I saw this one church, they have the rig inside the church. So they've got the overhead rig swinging the camera. And I'm just like, that
I
is
think
a
that's really
cool
cool.
shot.
I've seen
Yeah.
it.
So
I've
I'm
seen it
like,
before.
how did they get it? So I'm looking at these other things. I saw one, it was a mega church, and the camera was coming down the stairwell, like where people would walk up and down. The camera angle was coming down and on the zip line. And I'm over there. I was like, okay, they need to show me a different camera angle so I can see if I can find what they were using for something like that. So,
Yeah.
you find these creative video ideas. And if you're seeing movement in a camera on TV, don't be surprised if it's a PTZ. I was watching Pat McAfee show, and he was interviewing one of the Bears coaches because they're filming the Hard Knocks special with their team. And he on his show, if you haven't seen his show, is full of PTZ cameras. They have a bunch of PTZ cameras that run their show on ESPN and on YouTube. And when he was talking to the coach, he was like, "Hey, I know what that camera is up there on your shelf. That's a PTZ camera. You guys are
Yeah.
filming, aren't you?" So, big budgets, ESPN, this major personality is using PTZ cameras for his podcast, video show. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely, check out his show. If you don't enjoy the content, look past that, but look at the production. You'll even see a PTZ camera over his shoulder as he's talking, because they have them all throughout their studio. So it's pretty cool to kind of see it now, just not in a ministry setting, but it's also these other big time settings that we haven't seen these types of cameras in before.
Gotcha. I think that's really cool, man. And thank you for breaking that down, because my mind is just going round and round. I was thinking, to be honest with you, before you talked about Pat McAfee's show, I was thinking, like, you would not be purchasing a PTZ if you were planning to do a movie.
Mm-mm.
Like, it's not, the functionality is not for it. It would not be, PTZs are not on the approved Netflix camera list, okay? But we talked earlier about some people that could use them in their home studios. I'm thinking people that are teaching. Like if you are a teacher, a PTZ with some programmable stops, or the tracking could really help you move around, be free to move and still be caught by the camera. Those are some of the things that I think if you're using a PTZ would be really good. I like this shot that I have right here. This is my main shot in my studio. Yes, I do. I would like to have an overhead shot to be able to show you my whole setup, my studio here. But that's like an ending shot. It's not a shot that I would use while I'm talking to guests, because I am forward facing to my guests. And people, you want to think about that. Like, what style show, what's the function, what are you really planning to do? it would be extreme overkill for me, because even with my backdrop with my television in the back, I want to be in a certain spot so you can see a certain thing behind me. So Monty, I'm not moving. PTZ is not going to work for me. But I'm saying that to say, being thoughtful about how other people that are watching us tonight can actually use this. So I want to do this really quick. Jeremy, I'm going to come back to you. G. Albert asked a question. He called you Andy. I don't know why, but but I want to come to you, and we're going to answer this question from G. Albert about remote church broadcast being 60 miles away. Do you have some on the ground, someone on the ground, eyes and ears,
Yeah.
and hands to that site? Good question, G. Albert.
Yeah. So if I go back to the screen that you see here, I'll go back to my screen sharing, and let me turn off that this guy for a second. See, this is a control panel, this SQ mix pad. This is a control panel for a mixer board. There's somebody who knows how to run the audio inside the church. So this board is way overkill for a church this size, but that person is tasked with flipping on all of the equipment on Sunday morning before the services begin, and that is the extent of it. Beyond that, no, my eyes and ears are what I'm seeing, and like I was saying earlier, I just get the wide shot, and that wide shot is where, you know, I've learned enough at this point, the flow, because, you know, every service has a flow, right? So generally speaking, you know what's coming next, and so I just plan for that, and I always have a wide shot of, you know, what I can cut away to real quick and look over and see, you know, where I need to be next before I flip cameras. So the only time we've ever had any issues with equipment, and I built in some redundancy up there, but the only times that we've had issues is when somebody shows up like a minute before I'm supposed to go live, and I'm scrambling to have my, you know, I have no audio. I mean, I've got all the video, but I have no audio because the mixer, I mean, they're all volunteers, right? So the mixer operator just is a member of the church community, and so until they flip that master switch, all I got is my cameras. But I check in on the cameras all the time, and I'm always sitting there goofing off with white balance, and, you know, trying. I can't test anything that these cameras supposedly have tracking features in them, but this is the, you know, this is what the church looks like pretty much, you know, when there's the rest of the week, it's like this, you know, so I can't really test a whole lot of tracking features on it, but yeah, I mean, it's always good if you're doing any kind of remote production. It's always good to have boots on the ground.
Monty, let me ask you a question, because I never thought of this. What Jeremy is doing, setting up PTZ, he has it set up. It is connected to the network, right, Jeremy?
Yeah.
And then you're connected to that network through the companion app on your computer?
So there's the companion app that's running at the church on the Mac Studio at the church.
Okay.
And that is tied into it's a new feature, new-ish feature called Companion Cloud. And that connects up to their servers, and then I have the controlling app from my end running over here on a local copy running here, and that connects up to the same server using a unique ID. And then I can basically I program the buttons on the church side, and then it's not very intuitive. It takes a while to get to understand it, but once you get it, you basically you set up all your buttons on the remote machine, and then you can map them to your Stream Deck software on your local machine, and then that shows up on the virtual Stream Deck, which is on my iPad.
How is this, Monty, from your perspective, could be a potential, like all of us are producers, remote producers. How is this as a business plan? Is that something that people should be thinking about? Because if we learn the companion setup to be able to have everything talk to each other, we know how to set up the cameras, and we know how to use the PTZs. Basically you can do an install almost in a day, and the next day be live streaming with someone. Is this something that you thought of, or something that you think could be a good business model with the new technology?
For me personally, nope. Just from a time capacity, because I only can do one at a time. But
Right.
You can
but
only do one service at a time. I mean, none of
yeah, I
us
only can do one
are
server at
Kirk
a time.
Nugent.
Yeah, yeah.
We're not doing two live streams. Kirk was doing two. He was doing three live streams at one time. He
Yeah,
came on to my show and had two live streams going on at one
I
time.
heard him.
But
I
that's
heard him.
Kirk
That's why I
Nugent.
said. Yeah, Kurt is that other guy. He's that other dude. But yeah, I mean the ability to do it, because there are a lot of ministries that don't have the personnel that have knowledge of how to do this. If you add a little bit of networking, to anybody who's willing to learn a little bit of networking, you
Hmm.
can get these cameras on the network, be able to remote into it, set it up, from anywhere. Jeremy can take the iPad and go somewhere else, be on vacation, and still run the whole thing.
That's the whole point.
So,
Yep, that's the whole point.
so there's a lot of times where someone, other people that I work with that do very similar things. They'll get that phone call like, "Hey, we got nobody here. Can you run service remotely today?" So that possibility, I don't think people understand that's a real possibility right now, is
Right.
that you don't have to have
Hmm.
someone in the back of the room, or in the room that's way over there in the corner somewhere that nobody. I literally went to this one church, and it was a closet. Like, it was a closet because I was asking where the audio system was. It was this little small closet, and I was like, nah, I'll set up out here, because I'm like, okay, so there's obviously no one here that runs audio and visual. So in those types of situations, that'd probably be your only option, is to have someone run it remotely from their home. So, that it's possible. And I think, for those of us that are content creators, and maybe we want someone like Jeremy to run our production. Hey, Jeremy, I have a live stream that's happening on a Tuesday evening. I have PTZ cameras.
Right.
Can you produce my show for me? Because we have the equipment, and so then it becomes, okay, yeah, I'll sit back and I'll hit some buttons, and because I can do it. It sets that
Exactly.
initial setup. That is the part right there that someone's got to invest the time and the energy into doing it. But that's that skill set too that can transfer anywhere. So I'm sitting here geeking out. I'm like, can Jeremy be my follow-up episode here?
I
Can we
know,
have Jeremy
right?
be on next week and continue to show us some of this other stuff? Because it's funny, because there's so many different ways to do this, Strick. And I get the
Right.
comments in the chat and my YouTube channel all the time about, well, why didn't you do it this way, or you should have did it this way? But the reality, there's so many
So many
different
different ways.
ways to do the same
Yeah.
thing, to accomplish the same goal. You could run it promote that way. There's another platform that's just recently launched called PTZ High, or PTZ High, PTZ Optics version of it. So that's a
Yep.
different
Seen
platform
that.
that you can use. So I use Google Remote Desktop to log into a lot of stuff for churches if I need to access something, and I can log in that way. So there's so many different ways to connect the cameras, to which switcher and how you connect it, and it, the functionality to do what you want to do is definitely there with going this PTZ route. Putting it on the network just takes it leaps and bounds above what we can do with other types of cameras. So, Strick, if you want
Right.
to go ahead and put one in the studio, Jeremy can set that up.
I know it.
I
I know
can
it,
run
right?
it remotely. We can have two different camera angles. You just stand. All you have to do is talk, and we'll put a little camera action behind you.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And AG is hanging out with us tonight. AG, I see you, man. Thanks you for coming to the stream show. I would not move, so yeah, I would need somebody to bring some action to the studio, because I'm all right here. I'm so focused on like making sure the content is so good, which is where we all. I guess I can round it up with this. We're talking about cameras, PTZs, and using it in different use cases. How would you use it? More importantly, using it as you are providing great content to your audience is what's needed first. Okay. Now, I wanted to be outside of the box because we could talk about cameras all the time. And next week, we're going to talk about studio setup. And I'm working with Kat is going to be coming. We're going to be talking about updating her studio, which she just did. And there are tons of equipment. Just like Monte just said, there's more than one way of doing what we do in our studios. How do you need to do it? What's the functionality of what you need, and how could we make it all work? So I am in it 100% to do whatever it takes to not only bring good content, but also look good at the same time. So that's where I'm at with all of this. Jeremy, thanks for hanging out in the Zoom. Monte, I want to be sure that people can connect with you. You have so much going on your YouTube channel. I want to be sure that people know how to find you, that they go to your channel and keep up with you and all the latest news and tech that you cover. How can they do that?
Yeah, YouTube is just my name, Monte Weaver. It'll pop up. I got a bunch of videos that are ready to come out. There's a lot of equipment that's been showing up here, so I've been doing my best to review it and then get it out there, and then obviously put together some training videos behind it too. But if you have questions, definitely feel free to leave comments, or I also like those ones that say, hey, great video. Those comments definitely help encourage us as creators. So I appreciate all of those that, just take the time to do that as well, because it lets me know that it's worth creating the videos. Anybody that does technical work or creates technical tutorials, you already know how long it takes to go through and create these videos in a way that someone that doesn't understand this can understand it. And so it does take a significant amount of time. So I do try to do videos that I think will help the masses. But if there are more technical, intricate videos, I try to do those where it makes sense too as well. But YouTube is the best place to find me. And definitely glad I can, provide videos, like you said, Strick, that you even saw and you've watched them and they've helped you. So it's good to know that, the content that we're putting out there, especially as I'm putting stuff out related to, this more obscure type of camera that, is to a subset of people that aren't as familiar with what they can do. It's good to have that community of people lock in and, obviously see the content and support the content there too.
Hey, listen, I think you're doing a great job, and I really appreciate the information. Definitely has helped me get a better understanding of what I need to do in my studio and in content creation. So thank you, and thank you for your time tonight. I mean, everybody is not giving up their Sunday nights to come on to the stream show, but you have, and it means a lot to me, and it means a lot to the Ecamm community and everybody that's been kind of chiming in the chat. Thank you guys for taking your time tonight. Monte, I just really do appreciate it. Hopefully we can get together soon. I don't know where you're going to be doing conferences anymore or going out, but when you do, let me know. I'll figure out some time that I can get out of this studio as well and get out into the real world.
Yeah, for sure. We got to get together. We got to create some content on this PTZ. This will be the one we use to create content when we catch up right here.
There you go. And it's a handheld PTZ. And Brandy Joe, thank you for hanging out with us tonight. And Jeremy, thank you for coming through as well. Hey, guys, I'll see you next Sunday night on the stream show. We will have Kat on. We're going to be talking about the updates that she has to her studio. Oh, why not be in the studio for a while? I love talking about studio stuff. So hang out with me 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time this next Sunday, and you got me right here on the stream show. Hey, this is DJ Strick, and I would like to thank you for watching another edition of the stream show.